Hello, everyone. My name is Ines, and today I wanted to talk about understanding and denial. And I wanted to begin this off with saying that the opposite of understanding is not misunderstanding, but denial. The opposite of understanding is not misunderstanding, but denial. I got the idea for this video not only from experiences in my own life, but in large part from reading and parsing Otto Rank and his psychology and psychotherapy. And I wanted to share a quote from Will Therapy from him. He says, quote, "I had originally intended to call this chapter Understanding and Misunderstanding, but then chose the broader concept of denial as not only opposite, but itself actually the cause of the misunderstanding, particularly of the misunderstanding of self, which one calls rationalization. It is the denial arising in emotional life, a form of negative will assertion which leads to the necessity for interpretations of psychic phenomena and remains misunderstanding as long as emotional denial is not removed, or at least recognized as such. Also, all interpretation on the part of the analyst is worthless as long as it does not lead to the understanding of this denial mechanism itself in its relation to the yielding of the will under emotion." It's complex. There's a lot of abstract terms there: psychic phenomena, rationalization, misunderstanding, denial, will assertion, recognition, interpretation. What's he really saying here? If we go into our own emotional life, we go into our own inner world, the presupposition that he's pushing forward, the basic idea that he's pushing forward, is that we already have the answer, actually. That we actually already know what is true. That we actually already know. We know. We understand. We have it there. It's not that knowledge will give us the answer. Oh, I need to go read a book that's going to show me, that's going to tell me what's right. I need to go find out. He's saying that there's an inner compass that already exists, and that in denying our inner world in the form of rationalizations, literally he says, particularly of the misunderstanding of self, which one calls rationalization. And it's so funny because rationalization is the attempt to understand. And that's sort of the paradox of it, is that in the attempt to understand ourselves, often we end up misunderstanding ourselves. But even that is perhaps necessary. And I want to pause on that moment. Why would it be necessary for us to misunderstand ourselves? Well, because misunderstanding as such of a particular situation is not so important as recognizing in ourselves, in our own inner world, the structures and mechanisms that we build up in order to reject our own understanding of ourselves. The rationalizations that we produce, the understandings and recognitions of ourselves that we iterate, that these themselves are part of the mechanism that we use to misunderstand, to deny. And so it is in the experience of continual misunderstanding, continual denial, that we recognize the denials as such, what we're doing, the structures we're creating, but really why we're doing it. I always think that verbalizing your problems is the most important thing you can do. If you have something you want to understand, if you have something you're working on, I want to do this, and you have this massive inner world, all these ideas swarming and swirling, articulating it, giving it some form, some structure is sometimes the best thing, and not even sometimes, always something that is valuable to do. Because I think often people get caught up in these ruminative loops, self-referential thinking over and over and over again. And if you can express it in a way, if you can say it, if you can word it in some analogy, oh, I feel like I'm in a fog. I feel like I'm drowning. I feel like I'm lost in the woods. Well, if you're lost in the woods, let's get you a map. Let's get you a compass. Let's get you Let's get you some directional skills so you can make your way out. Let's get you, learn to read the moss on the tree so you can make your way to water. If you feel like you're drowning, let's get you some air. If you feel like you're stuck in fog, let's get you some clear sight. Let's get you to some higher altitude so you can see clearly. And so you can begin to take steps. And I think the analogy that works best for our understanding of this mechanism of understanding denial is the idea of a reservoir of water. Imagine that within you have this massive reservoir, this massive well of energy, well of water. And this is always there, that you always have this strength, this inner vitality that's coursing through you. And that in the course of life, in the course of our experiences in culture, in deceptive mechanisms of engagement with people, in terms of conformity, in terms of these false structures of self, we begin to build dams. We begin to build little blockades in our own reservoir. And so that the reservoir is the center of water, and then our inner world is this massive forest, this vital garden, this enormous oasis of all these trees, and we water ourselves and we do all these things. And that as we build these blockades, as a child, we don't have any of these things. The world is colorful, it's full of life. And as we build these blockades, as we deny our own vitality, suddenly the forests, gardens, and oases within us begin to die. Suddenly there are droughts. Suddenly there are no longer any resources and nutrients to feed ourselves. And then we go try to find them. We try to get them. We try to buy water externally. We try to go, find a well, find something outside that gives us the vitality that we're searching for. If it's in a person, if it's an ideology, a creed, we have to go find it. We have to search. Rank's radical idea is that it's not about searching, but releasing. But recognizing that you already have it within. That you are your own map, you are your own compass, that the answer is inside. You already know. Otto Rank says that the neurotic suffers not because they know too little, but because they know too much. That they're unable to take the illusions for truth. That the remedies and people say, do this and you'll feel better. Go watch a movie and you'll feel better. Go do this and none of those will work. Because you have a particular situation and you have a particular thing that's going on within you. And so the misunderstanding is vital and important because it shows you the mechanism of your own denial of yourself. And so it's not about making the unconscious conscious. It's not about making things conscious. It's about becoming conscious. And the way we do that is by recognizing these denials that are within us. By recognizing when and where we're blocking ourselves. And Kierkegaard says this, and others do too, but it's so simple to lie. It's so simple to lie. And when you first begin to deny yourself, a little blockade here, a little dam here, a little structure here to block off my water, it's not so noticeable. It's just a little bit, okay, a little bit less, but you still have this energy and life still feels, vibrant. But as you build more and more of these structures, suddenly there's no water left. And suddenly you have to muster all of the strength to destroy these dams. And it becomes so difficult because the only tool you have at your disposal is your own denial, which you have been using to deny yourself all this time. In terms of relationships, in terms of friendships, in terms of work, in terms of life, in terms of what you believe, in terms of how you believe, in terms of how you live your life. And you can rationalize and say, I do this because of this, and I do this because of this. And you can make all of these excuses. But you already know the answer. And so what is it that leads to the denial? right? Because it's clear the rationalization, the misunderstanding is a product of us denying. We deny and we create the rationalization so that we can deny, so that we can continue to deny, so that we can accept our denial. But why are we denying to begin with? Well, every particular situation is a bit different. But I would say the biggest reason in almost every case is fear. Fear of what will happen, fear of what people will think, fear of separation, fear of loss, guilt. No, I can't do that, I can't do that, I can't. Fear that if I do this, what's going to happen? Fear about if I leave the situation I'm in now, will it get better? Will it get worse? But if we peel back the layer and say, well, it's not fear about doing that or doing this. What is the fear really about? Because it's always in relation to other people. It's always in relation to other people, whether it's conforming to social standards, whether it's, appeasing people in a relationship, friendship, work, whether it's family, whatever it is, it's always about another person. We feel this doubt. I have this dream, but I don't know if it'll work out. Deny. Oh, I couldn't do it anyway. Deny. The fear, paradoxically, is of ourselves. The fear is becoming who we are. The fear is becoming an individual. If you have that thing that you want to do, you're going to have to separate yourself from a collective group. You're going to have to separate yourself from what exists in order to do that. And this is what Carl Jung calls individuation. And so we deny our own individuation. And let's peel back the layers again. What does that really sound like? We're blocking up our own dam. We're blocking up our own water structures. We're blocking up our own individuation. We're blocking our own growth. We're denying our own growth. We're denying what we're capable of. Because of all of these ideas and thoughts and rationalizations that have entered our head. But if we can just let go of these just for the moment and just think, what do I want to do? What do I want to do? Because if you can't be honest with yourself, you can't be honest with other people. If you can't be honest with yourself, you can't be honest with other people. And at the end, I think part of it really is, too, this fear of growth. Psychologically, we're all organisms that we're seeking to grow. We're always seeking to become more. And we have periods of death and rebirth, as they say, right? That a tree experiences spring at the cost of winter. And that we go through that cycle over and over again. And there's nothing wrong with that. And that's just how it goes. But part of it really is that in growing, we become something else. And we lose the sense of security that comes with being a part of a group, or just being a part of what we were already a part of. The individuation, the separation, the fear of loss. But life is a series of losses. There's a great line from Nietzsche in Thus Spoke Zarathustra. He says, thus I will what I love, and thus I will my hatred of it. Something like that. Let me pull it up. Well, I can't find it now, unfortunately. Or maybe I do. Oh, here we go. Whatever I may create and however I may love it, soon I must oppose it, and my love, thus my will wants it. And this might sound outrageous, how could you love a thing and then move past it? Well, that's just growth. It's the price of creation, it's the price of separation. But I think I'm getting a little bit off topic. So I'm going to go back to this idea of denial and misunderstanding. And really focus on the fact that in our denial, we produce our misunderstanding. And by recognizing why we deny, making that recognition, we can begin to accept and no longer deny. And it's not so easy as it sounds, because there are two forms of dealing with denial. There's the form of a denial that you've denied so often that it's become a neurotic structure in your brain. You've produced it. It was a creative achievement of your own design. And now you have to destroy it. Whoever wishes to become a creator must first be an annihilator. But then there's the form of denial that you encounter in every moment that you are creative. And this kind of also is a very mythical idea. Prometheus, who gives mankind fire, is punished eternally. Adam and Eve, who eat from the tree of knowledge, are punished by separation from God. We find that a creative act to assume to do something creative is something that is almost opposed to human belonging and human conformity. Because in order to create something, you have to step away from what already exists. Especially if you want to create yourself. And so the first step, not even that. I think what's really valuable here is that even in our denial, we're creating ourselves. Even our denials are forms of creation. But is it positive or negative creation? Are we creating things that allow us to, and this relates to my other video about neuroses or creative achievements, but are we creating things that allow us to create, to grow? Are we creating things that prevent our growth? And so as a ending line, once you realize that you already have the answer, that misunderstanding, that your excuses and rationalizations, that these are forms and products of the denials of what you actually already know to be true, and that the pain, the difficulty of acting on what you know to be true is what's preventing you from doing that and creating these denials so that you can accept what already exists, rather than acting as yourself wants to act, as yourself believes you to act. Once you realize that you are the answer, that you have the answer, you will always have the answer, and you always are the answer, well, then you will no longer search. And you'll be sort of an inner alchemist. And you can feel that energy within. You can know when you're denying and repressing and suppressing. And you can know, you can view all these things. You can see all of it. And you can be like a water bender. Anyway, I hope that everyone who's listened thus far had something to take away from this video. I hope everyone was able to achieve some form of understanding of themselves and recognize some of the forms of denial in their own lives, and was able to take something positive away that relates to their own lives. And until the next video, thank you for listening.